Imagine for a second that you're standing in front of a massive investigative evidence board. You're trying to piece together a puzzle, but the most absolutely critical pieces? They've just ceased to exist. Well, welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're opening the file on what is, without a doubt, the greatest, most chilling unsolved mystery in the history of modern aviation: Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Look, this isn't just a story about a missing machine. It's a profound, deeply unsettling mystery that challenges our fundamental understanding of this hyper-connected world we live in. We are going to meticulously analyze every clue, every radar record, and every bizarre contradiction that has kept experts up at night for over a decade.
March 8th, 2014. Think about the sheer human scale of that night. 239 people. You've got passengers settling in for a red-eye, families sending their last quick text messages, a flight crew running through their totally standard pre-flight checklists. They're boarding a Boeing 777. Now, in the aviation world, that aircraft is widely considered to be one of the safest in the skies. It has an exceptional safety record. Literally everything about that night disguised itself in absolute deceptive normalcy. But, as we all tragically know, they never arrived.
Chapter 1. The Flight That Vanished. A Routine Departure.
To really grasp how anomalous this whole thing is, we first have to establish the baseline, hour zero. The aircraft departs Kuala Lumpur for what should be a standard overnight flight to Beijing. Through that first hour, it is a textbook flight. The weather conditions are highly favorable, the plane reaches cruising altitude, and air traffic control is chatting with the cockpit exactly as you'd expect. No distress calls, zero signs of any technical issues whatsoever. Then, at minute 40, right as they're crossing into Vietnamese airspace, the cockpit transmits its final, perfectly mundane message: "Good night, Malaysian 370. And then, minute 42. Silence. Just a sudden, inexplicable disappearance from civilian radar.
Now, when a plane just vanishes like that, the immediate assumption, the logical one, is a temporary communication glitch, or, well, tragically, a crash right there in the vicinity. In this case, the South China Sea. Massive search and rescue operations were mobilized immediately under that exact assumption, fully expecting to find floating debris. But investigators were about to get hit with a chilling plot twist. When the military radar data was finally pulled and analyzed, it revealed something crazy. The plane hadn't just fallen out of the sky, it had altered its course. It had deliberately turned around and flown right back across the Malaysian peninsula. MH370 was still flying.
Chapter 2. The Digital Breadcrumbs. The Silent Signals.
With civilian radar completely blind to the aircraft, investigators had to scramble for a different kind of trail. Enter the electronic handshake. So even though the transponders and the primary communication systems were dark, completely shut off, the aircraft's satellite systems were actually still quietly doing their job in the background. Think of it like a digital heartbeat. They were sending these automated electronic pings to an Inmarsat satellite orbiting way out in space. And the crazy part? These silent signals continued for hours after the plane vanished from the radar screens. It was undeniable proof this massive aircraft was still airborne, flying silently through the dark.
But how do you actually find a plane with nothing but a handful of electronic pings? It's incredibly complex. Step 1. The experts meticulously analyzed the precise timings and the frequency shifts of those automated handshakes. Step 2. They used advanced physics to literally reconstruct the aircraft's hidden route along orbital arcs. Step 3. They calculated the absolute maximum distance that Boeing 777 could possibly travel before reaching the point of total fuel exhaustion. And this math? It pinpointed a final resting place along what became known as the Seventh Arc. We're talking about the incredibly vast, freezing, and wildly remote southern Indian Ocean.
Chapter 3. The Ocean's Secrets. A Vast Void.
The math pointed south, and it led the search teams to one of the most unforgiving, hostile environments on the planet. And what did they find in that initial surface search? Zero. Literally nothing. Despite launching the most expensive multi-nation search operation in the history of aviation, we're talking fleets of aircraft, ships, satellites, and super sophisticated underwater vehicles scanning millions of square kilometers, they found zero major wreckage. The contrast here is just staggering. You have this pinnacle of human engineering, a massive modern airliner, simply swallowed whole by the enormous ocean depths, the harsh weather, and the powerful currents.
And the passage of time here? It's just agonizing, especially for the families. Day 1 is defined by this sudden, terrifying disappearance and utter confusion. By month 1, you've got this massive surface search expanding across the vastness of the Indian Ocean. The entire world is watching the news, just waiting for a breakthrough. But it wasn't until year 2, over 2 years later, that the ocean finally started to give up its first clues. Slowly, mangled pieces of the aircraft began washing ashore on these distant islands and coastlines.
But this physical evidence, it actually created a deeply frustrating paradox. When a piece of the wing, a flaperon, washed up on Reunion Island, investigators conclusively linked it back to MH370. Okay, so this was definitive confirmation. It proved once and for all that the aircraft's journey ended in the ocean. But here's the catch. Because ocean currents can carry objects for thousands and thousands of miles over a span of years, finding these pieces did absolutely nothing to pinpoint the exact crash location. The main wreckage, the black boxes, the real answers, they remained totally hidden.
Chapter 4. Who was in control? Human intervention.
In the sheer absence of a crash site, speculation just rushed in to fill the void. And it brings us to the question that haunts every single investigator on this case. Was someone in the cockpit responsible? The rogue pilot theory points directly back to that military radar data we talked about earlier. The aircraft didn't just drift off course, right? It appeared to execute a complex route, turning back over the peninsula. Proponents of this theory argue that maneuvers like that indicate intentional, highly skilled control of the aircraft. But, and this is a big but, critics forcefully push back. They remind us that there is absolutely zero conclusive evidence proving this scenario. And they warn that drawing such dark, damning conclusions without definitive physical proof is incredibly dangerous.
Okay, so what about an outside threat? Could someone else have breached that cockpit door and taken control? Well, investigators literally tore into the passenger manifests. Every background was thoroughly, exhaustively reviewed. Cargo manifests were strictly examined for any anomalies or dangerous goods. Airport security procedures from that night were double, triple-checked. The result of all that digging? No clear evidence of a traditional hijacking. No known terrorist group ever claimed responsibility, and no suspicious actors were identified on that flight list.
Chapter 5. Catastrophic failure. The ghost plane.
If we can't definitively prove deliberate human action, we have to investigate a chilling mechanical scenario. Modern aircraft are highly complex, interdependent networks of systems. The hypoxia theory proposes a sudden catastrophic mechanical failure that leads to a rapid loss of cabin pressure, a massive decompression event. In the aviation world, a severe hypoxia event like that can incapacitate both the passengers and the highly trained crew almost instantly, way before they even have a chance to secure their oxygen masks. If this happened, it might have left the aircraft flying silently on autopilot, a literal ghost plane. It would just continue on its heading until it simply ran out of fuel over the open ocean. It's a terrifying scenario, and it does explain the loss of communication, but investigators still really struggle with whether it fully accounts for those deliberate-looking course changes early on in the timeline.
And honestly, this right here is exactly why the world's leading aviation experts still passionately disagree today. The available evidence we have is like a fractured mirror. The hypoxia theory explains the radio silence, but really struggles to explain the complex route. The rogue pilot theory explains the route, but completely lacks any psychological or physical proof. It seems like every single answer we think we find immediately creates 3 new, deeply perplexing questions.
Chapter 6. The Unsolved Mystery. Waiting for the Truth. So where does this leave us? Where does it leave the families who have waited over a decade for a shred of closure? Well, the official government investigations might have closed, but the search itself, it has not. Independent investigators and data scientists are out there right now tirelessly running new mathematical models on those satellite handshakes. Oceanographers are constantly refining their understanding of those complex Indian Ocean drift patterns based on where the debris ended up. And look, technology marches forward. We now have incredibly precise underwater mapping techniques and vastly improved autonomous diving vehicles that can explore ocean terrain few humans have ever even dreamed of seeing. Which naturally leads us to ask, will the main wreckage actually ever be found? Will a new high-tech sonar sweep suddenly illuminate the fuselage resting in the silt on the ocean floor? Or will the immense, unfathomable scale of the Indian Ocean manage to keep it secret forever?
Because the haunting reality is this: somewhere out there, hidden in the freezing, crushing depths of the southern Indian Ocean, lies the physical evidence. The flight data recorders, the cockpit voice recorders, the black boxes. They are sitting down there in the absolute dark, waiting to finally reveal the truth of what really happened on March 8, 2014, waiting to offer fragments of closure to the families who have endured an unimaginable psychological toll.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We live in an era where we track our smartphones down to the precise meter, where satellites map the globe in real time, where data is absolute king. In an age of such advanced, ubiquitous technology, how does a massive, modern Boeing 777 carrying 239 souls just simply vanish? MH370 challenged literally everything we assumed about our connected world. It serves as a haunting reminder that some mysteries do endure, and the truth, at least for now, remains just out of reach. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the evidence.